Hello everyone! Welcome back to this game! When we last left off, Harrison got his own guardian angel, Michiru Vashtar, and he learned a couple of spells, so that's pretty cool. And now we are at the Belching Penguin, where Uri seems to be getting himself drunk. Also, hey! Thank you for the bits, Royal Land, that is awesome of you! Bit bomb indeed. Now then, Belch. Hey dude, come on. Don't tell me you're giving up already. Surely that's not all the booze you are able to hold. Hiccup. With the traveling merchant. Hiccup. I've gotta admit, kid, you are even better at this than I am. Belch. Guess I'll just have to admit defeat, eh? Uri leans back in his chair, now fully soused? Soused? Oh, so what chair? He's not sitting in the chair. Uri whistles. Man, I'll bet Priyan would kill me if she saw me like this. How do you know she's not watching you right now? As a woman, she would never in a million years approve of a fellow having a good time in this way. You are making some really annoying assumptions, Uri. First off, I don't care. Do you. As your drinking partner, I must call to your attention the possibility that, as this guardian angel of yours, maybe she can actually see and hear everything you are doing, even at the times you don't think she's around. Gruff laugh. Now that would be quite a laughable dilemma for you, brother. Hick. Priyan says all the way from across Kalinka through gritted teeth. Yes, truly amusing. Heh. Uri says with eyes wide. Priyan? Priyan explodes. You're in big trouble, mister. Okay, I would like to imagine that she is saying that just like Michelle from Full House. You're in big trouble, mister. Also, hi Lit, welcome to the stream. Uri says with a more quiet hiccup this time. Aw, man. Well, you can't hide from the dear woman. Hick. And you must appreciate having her around to keep you in line, huh? Can't argue with you there. Besides, I can still enjoy this ale before even having to go back to her to get in trouble. Uri raises his mug in salute. So, to my lovely Priyan, the Elvinian goddess of love. And then, her heroes were shaken to hear the most terrifying scream of bloodlust just yards from behind them. And it was then they'd come to realize that they were doomed for sure. They would never be able to make it to Kalinka alive now. All of their hopes for saving their homeboy Harrison were now about to be dashed to pieces along with all four of their lives. Dreading the face of their imminent destructor, the four heroes slowly turned around and saw the dreaded Scourge of Lamoon towering above them, one giant clawed hand poised ready to tear them apart. The legendary sharp-toothed bloodthirsty Sasquatch, Nils Holiday. That was a Sasquatch? Helenia jumps back a step, clutching her arms tightly around herself in fright. Wah! Please don't scare me like that. You know, I don't remember ever getting scared by a story like that. To the point where I am cowering in fear at the person telling me the story. Uh, well, I mean, I'm half skunk, so that probably accounts for some of the bravery, I guess. Oh, sorry. Now, where was I in our story? Helenia's teeth are still chattering. The part where the awful Mr. Nils appeared before them. So, did the monster get our heroes? How is it possible that an angel could actually lose her sight in the first place? I mean, think about it. A celestial entity being subject to the deformities and illnesses that humans, elves, and dwarves can, like blindness? We are no longer entirely immortal, child. Sadly, because of what that monster Zealous Arden had done to us. Gonna have to keep that name in mind. My sisters and I now suffer some of the same limitations as you mortal children of Serena do. Oh, hey! Thank you, Wireland! More bits! Wireland says, and here's a bit more. I'll see myself out. No, don't worry about it, Wireland. As I like to say, every little bit helps. Michiru realizes her words. And I already forgot what she was saying. I am sorry, Prien. That was insensitive of me. It's alright. I understand. Of course, Harrison, Master Lyle, I meant no disrespect to any of you lesser creatures of Earth or Elvenia when I said that, and yet you just called them lesser creatures anyway. In anything, because I now know a little about what it is like to be somewhat similar to a mortal, I find it easier and more understandable to love you all in the way that Serena does. Do not find my now having a wide range of intensity of emotions like humans do, or possessing a curiosity to evolve myself in matters of knowledge or spirit like the elves, to be such a bad thing at all. You're now able to love us like Serena does? Does that mean Serena can be afflicted by that stuff? Lyle smiles. And here we were about to take that as an insult, Lady Michiru. I only meant that these limitations we now have may be disadvantages to us where our fight against the Dark Lord is concerned. To put it bluntly, even though it was only through us that you and your friends were able to learn magic, Lord Zenobia is probably just as capable of destroying us mistresses of the ways of magic, one of those many flattering titles you have bestowed us with, as he is any of the four of you. And until our mother is... Charmise quickly cuts her off. Michiru quickly corrects herself. Until Serena can return to her proper place of vigilance over the world in heaven, shall I say. If my sisters or myself can be slain by the Dark Lord, then... well... Okay, back up a bit. Are you trying to hide the fact that Serena is your actual mother, or are you saying mother in the religious sense? Please never mind that. I think perhaps I am being just a little too pessimistic in my assumptions. Let us not get ourselves so downhearted right now, for this is a day of triumph for our side, and the rest of Elvenia, after all. Yes, you're right. Surely she didn't mean that they would be utterly lost in that case, did she? What is it that has gone wrong with Serena, then? Could her presence in Elvenia truly be fading because of the Dark Lord? Serena cannot possibly actually be destroyed herself, can she? You never know with these RPGs. When you said Lord Zenobia, were you referring to the Dark Lord? Is that his true name? Yes. So, may we ask just how it was that you were struck blind, Lady Michiru? Oh, we haven't heard that part yet? I mean, I haven't heard that part, and you guys haven't heard that part, but I assumed that they were already telling that part. Forgive me if that is too personal a thing to inquire of. It isn't. I am not at all begrudging of the person who did this to me, actually. In fact, I should be grateful to him, in a way, as my blindness only heightened my desire to escape from him and be free again to journey into the world to seek solace from the embraces of those whom I had been separated from for so long. My dear sisters, Ares, Chermes, and Priyan. Well, yeah, but it still sucks. And I am happy to find that, however critical our time is now, my condition could not prevent me from still using my senses to find you 7 small dots on the Elvanian world map. It'd be funny if we were talking literally. The world map. So, it was this Zealous Arden who blinded you. Yes. Though my battle with him had been drawn out for several days, I realized eventually that, alone and without completeness in my immortality as an angel, I was fairly outmatched. In his anger that he wasn't able to avenge himself upon me by killing me completely, although I fear he came close enough, Zealous chose to punish me by casting physical darkness upon my eyes. Oh, it was magical? No, shoot, and let's just get a remedy from the store. That'll solve that. Whether or not this was part of his intent to let me go after that fact because he thought he could kill my spirit by leaving me to go groping pitifully about the world for the sisters who could protect me from him, that I do not know. I had no desire to stay around him long enough to find out either. I admit that I had become afraid of him before long. Well, yeah, with good reason. And where is this guy now? If he intended to kill you all along, then he will definitely come looking for you again sometime, won't he? Is that expressive of your wish to protect me? You need not worry, child. Zealous is in a prison of sorts, and cannot leave as far as I can tell, though that is a rather sensitive story all on its own. I believe it was upon the other 3 coming to rescue Uri, Lyn, and Dusk during their fight with one of the Lunas Elru Knights of the Elven City that whatever the magical chains that held me in thrall were broken, and thus I set out immediately to find you. So prison is where he is. I have a feeling we'll be going to this prison eventually. I am sorry for leaving Zaylee's sisters, yet there wasn't anything more I could do for that man. I even went so far as to try to feel the pain in his heart for him, yet I still could not understand him, and he simply refused to turn back to the ways of light. You're too kind, sister, to still concern yourself with him. We are just as sorry that you had to be alone without anyone to care for you this long. You must have cried heavily in your loneliness and fear. If only we had known you were still in Elvania. Oh, Priyan, why do you carry on so? A short while ago, when Lisa came before me on her way to heaven to express her joy at having been forgiven by her mother and those she loved, leaving me with such a pleasant smile of peace that I knew she was now safe from the darkness forever, I remembered then what it was like to hope again. I could not feel more than content than I do at this moment. So, after we dispel the darkness within Priestess Lisa's heart, she went up to heaven and met you along the way? That's kind of interesting. I had assumed that you were actually coming from somewhere else. Also, good to know that she is going up to heaven and all is well and that sort of thing. And the reason for you and your sister's loss of, shall I say, purity as angels, Lady Michiru? My, Master Lyle, you have quite an inquisitive nature, don't you? I apologize. As a scholar, it has always been one of my undesirable habits. Really? Undesirable? I don't know, that seems like a good thing to have. Though, you thinking that is an undesirable habit would explain how in RPGs people tend to not tell you anything. However, I live on Earth, and on Earth, not telling you anything is annoying. Oh boy, we come to this point in the game. Well, first off, some good news. We have the opportunity to save the game or continue the scene. But this moment here is very important for future reference. It involves that point in the game later on when I kind of blew up. So let us kind of keep this in mind. We're in the middle of this cutscene, and we have the option of saving the game or continuing the scene. I do want to save, but now I'm paranoid that by saving the game, I won't actually get to continue the scene. I think it might have been better if we just were asked, do you want to save at this point? And then I wouldn't be concerned about whether I would be skipping the rest of the scene. Well, we're continuing the scene. It was due to Lord Zenobia's having used his evil magic to shatter a most precious gift we had once given to Serena to display our adoration of her. Some years ago, when the Lunas Elru Knights had first led him across the path of Eden to this world. His doing this must have been the first logical step to their plans for taking control of this galaxy. Why is that? Of what significance did this gift have, other than its being a way of showing your love and reverence for her? The brook that my sisters and I had presented to our mother was, to explain as plainly as far as I know how, fashioned by all of the love and adoration we held for her in our hearts, and, in truth, a piece of our very hearts were quite literally placed into its creation. That sounds painful. As Master Lyle had unwittingly spoken it, some degree of our purity as angels was indeed taken away with that monster's heartless destruction of the brook. Brook. I'm never sure how to pronounce that word. It was simply Zenobia's hatred for all things of holy beauty that he did such a hateful deed, and that which he envies and cannot obtain for himself, he will seek to destroy. I will never be able to forget that look of utter heartbreak that crossed Serena's face when she had turned around upon hearing the Dark Lord bark her name with loud contempt from off in the distance, and, just like that, the gift we had poured so much of our souls into making for Serena was physically torn away from her bosom, only for her eyes to then be forced to see the brook maliciously crushed before them into mere dust by his own hands. Okay, before moving on, I really want to look this up. How do we pronounce this? Brooch? Here, let me switch to my PC audio real quick so I can hear this.
Brooch.
Brooch. Okay. Brooch. See, that's why I was confused about the word. It's pronounced differently than it looks. Our mother, happy could not have been a strong enough word to describe her reaction when we had bowed upon our knees before her to present this gift to her. I had never before seen such warmth show in even Serena's eyes, nor had I ever witnessed such sadness of any degree show on her face than when that same token of our affection for her was so wrongfully snatched away from her. Our mother just suddenly looked like a small child who had been unexpectedly torn away from the familiar hands of her loving parents by some mad stranger. Even your heartbreak does not seem to be as great as your mother's, Lady Chermies. How could anyone be capable of doing such a terrible thing? I only mean to be encouraging when I say this, but couldn't you all recover the fragments and meld them back together to recreate the brooch that you gave to her somehow? Even the Dark Lord could not stop you from doing that, Cookie. Perhaps we could, and I would most certainly be willing to search for every last one of them for Serena's sake, no matter how long it took. But our purity now lies scattered in many fragile pieces throughout Elvenia, and they are still so covered in the black remnants of Lord Zenobia's cruelty that even the eyes of an angel cannot see them for what they are. We've probably passed several on our journey already without knowing it. In that case, would the heirloom my wife left with my daughter and I upon her passing away 3 years ago be of any help towards recovering Serena's most treasured possession? You mean, is that Lisa's monocle you happen to be referring to? Yes, this must be the same thing. Back in our childhood together, when she and I had first fallen in love, Emily had been able to use the magic lens to see every wrong move I had ever made behind her back. Okay, yeah, that is certainly a handy thing to have. Or so she always laughingly claimed that she could do. I don't suppose Emily was kidding me either. Bless her soul, that blasted monocle had made it all too easy for her to keep me on a tight leash. Oh yeah, Stripeback is pointing out that Lisa was called Emily again for some reason. Lyle says with a chuckle, and to think, after all of that, she was still willing to marry me and risk creating a child who would possess half of my DNA. Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. About how... Where's my notes? I gotta remind myself of the name. Sarah. It is interesting how Sarah seems to be kind of half angel in a way, hiding some wings under her clothing. I can kind of relate to that, being half dragon and half spotted skunk. Granted, I'm not gonna hide my wings under my top. Would be kind of hard to, considering how big they are. Actually, I think I mentioned that before. I got big wings. Also, I do enjoy being a hybrid. It is neat being a hybrid. Master Lyle, you really adored Lisa, didn't you? As I always spoke of her to Sarah, that woman was, and always would be, both my strength and my salvation. But Emily would be embarrassed for me to go into all those stories. Yet, on a more serious note, she has said that the magical powers inside the glass allowed her to be able to see into the hearts of all those Avenians who she was always going off to visit and preach her kindly sermons to over in Sibylline Reef, back when she was alive. She could always find, therefore, if her friends and students were struggling with some sort of hurt or fear on the inside of their hearts, but would not allow it to show outwardly. And so she was then made able to try to help that broken person with her ministering kindness if needed, just as she always would. I am certain, then, that this artifact would be able to help you see through the darkness and find the pieces of the brooch that are within. Of course they will. This is wonderful. Oh dear, Master Lyle. Could you possibly be so gracious as to allow us to borrow the lens for a while? I know that they must be of great sentimental value to you, so we understand if you cannot. Not at all. I would be happy to give it to you, especially for such an important cause as this, and I am sure Emily would feel the same way. It is kept inside of my daughter's diary in her room. Even Sarah never could tell exactly what her mother had used the monocle for, but she certainly did wonder a lot how Emily always knew whenever Sarah was a little girl, or Sarah, as a little girl, asked her mother to guess what she was thinking inside of her heart. Thank you for this, Master Lyle. Really.